Sometimes in life, you find yourself on the right side of the line.
We got a trio of threes talking about a four.
Just because it's called a stereotype doesn't make it a lie. You can put that on my greatness statue, that quote right there.
Live from Texas, this is the Dryline Farmer Podcast. What has four thumbs and hates people? These guys. It's the Dryline Farmer Podcast.
Yes, that's right, Ashton. We need to get Ashton back on the podcast. We hadn't had her in a while, but this is the Dryline Farmer Podcast, and we have four thumbs tonight, but two of those thumbs are different, and they're actually in a different time zone, a different state, and in a different stage of drought. We've got Casey Seymour from the Moving Iron Podcast. Casey, been a long time. It's been what? How long you been on here? 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago? What's been going on? I know you gave like a commencement address this evening. What were you doing in Scotts Bluff?
First time, long time, Brent. Thanks for taking my call.
Great show as always, Phil.
No, I just had one of those evenings where just trying to get a bunch of stuff put together that was just guys were looking to buy stuff, and I'm here to sell to them. So things are plugging along.
So, spoken like a true salesman. What's been going on the Moving Iron Podcast lately?
Man, I'll tell you what, we've got all kinds of crazy things happening now. Aaron Finnell and I have been working together on that podcast for a long time, and so we've been doing some stuff there. We've had a lot of conversations of late of what's happening with the marketplace and where we see things headed. So, there's a lot of good information out there about commodity prices right now. So that's a big pluses. So, but there's also some areas of concern. We start looking at what's going to get traded in. So there's a lot of good stuff going on, and we've got February is going to be a big month for us. We're going to kind of relaunch the podcast in a different format. So looking forward to that, and have a few other guests come on. So looking forward to that.
Now, tell me a little bit about this Aaron. Now, I've met Aaron Fintel and I called him Aaron Fentanyl that one time we did that episode. Now, tell me about this guy. Now, just that one time I was on an episode with him, he was pretty trippy.
Yeah, Aaron is a trip for sure. Aaron is he's the guy that's doing what he loves every day. He's an equipment guy that's really loves equipment. He's basically an encyclopedia from about 1960 forward. So if you're looking at a piece of equipment, he can tell you everything there is to know about it. And to be honest with you, I don't know if you can probably stump him on much. So he totally gets what he's doing, and he's a character on top of all that too. So yeah, he's a lot of fun.
So he's that guy that knows like all the model numbers and when they had like split serial numbers in 1998.
Yeah. He's like if Rain Man was about, he'd be that guy. He'd be Dustin Hoffman's character.
Yeah, definitely 7140. Definitely. Yeah, that one. See, now in 1994 they went with the newer cup holders. The 1992 models didn't have the separate cup holders; they just had the tray. Yeah, it was definitely a good.
Machine Pete's on it for it. Machine Pete's on it for it. Machine Pete, of course. That'd be it.
Well, we're recording this episode on the Wednesday night. Would you say this was the Paul Revere night of 2021, or was this the Lexington and Concord battles of 2021? Because shit got real this afternoon in our nation's capital, and I've asked a couple of friends if I actually saw them in that face paint, and the dude from Saw that had the hog, had the hog head. And
right.
It turns out he was just a professional because he was also at a Black Lives Matter. I was about to say a Black Lives Matter concert, but protest.
Right. Yeah. The stuff that happened today is, it's sad. that it happened the way that it did.
How much of it do you think were infiltrators?
Probably close to 100%.
Close to 100%. Well, don't go out on a limb there, Casey, because we don't want you to.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things. If you take a look at how this, Trump rallies and all the stuff with the Antifa things and the Black Lives Matter deal and all this stuff, of all the things to jump in the middle of and go. I mean, I'm shocked that only 2 people got shot today.
Yeah.
I mean, with what happened. If it was any other aspect of that, I can't fathom that. You think if they would have had an issue with what's going on and changing America and yada yada yada, that Portland would be a battleground state in the literal term of the word. You know, I mean, it would
Portland's
just
a city.
It'd be kidding, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where I just have a hard time believing that a group of folks that are supposed to support, the rule of law and the police and yada yada yada, then all of a sudden they're going to go do this kind of thing. So, I mean, there's been lots of reports out there that lots of different people are been identified as other, like the Black Lives Matter guy that you were talking about earlier. I mean, there's plenty of those reports out there. Who knows if any of it's what comes from any of it? But I just a bunch of white middle-aged people that show up to a rally in Washington D.C. I'm pretty sure they weren't like, let's go like my dad. He's not going to go storm the House of Representatives. It's something that's going to happen. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just have trouble believing a lot of it.
So I always like to talk about my internship I did up there in D.C. back in 2002, which was obviously just a few months after 9/11. And the fact that these people could get even in the front door, let alone down 3 hallways, through Statuary Hall, up the stairs, and then back down to the cloakroom and through the doors is beyond my imagination, because that level of security was like, trying to get a peephole when you're 15 screwed into the girls' locker room.
Exactly.
It was that type of a fortress that you had to go through to get to it. And the fact that, I saw one deal said the cops let him through. I don't believe that for a second. And the people that it's going to be obviously sad that somebody died from this thing. This lady got shot and died, but it's going to be interesting to see what actual details come out of this thing over the next several days, because stuff's going to come down. I'm looking at my trending column here, and Resign is tied for 9th, and each Resign says it has 512,000 tweets. But yet yesterday there was something that says Death to America was like number 2, and it had 2,100 tweets. So I just don't get their that Rain Man counting style that they have, because there's not 500 toothpicks in that box.
Right. So coming back to your point about security and stuff like that, when there is a document in the Constitution, the Constitution says this is how the continuity of government is going to work, and then there's people that they put in place to defend that. It's a sad day. It's just a sad day for America. I mean, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, or what your political beliefs are, or whether you believe that the election was stolen or not, or whatever. That doesn't matter. This is the kind of stuff that happens in Nigeria, right? This is the kind of stuff that happens in Central America. These are the kind of things that happen in all these different places, and it's just a sad day.
That's where I have to diverge, because in all of those countries you listed, lots of people would have died, but above all of that, they would have had those fancy caps that Fidel Castro wore back in 1963.
Sure.
And the berets, the fancy green berets, and I didn't see any of that, to be honest with you, Casey.
No. So this was I don't know. It's just a bad day.
But and I probably got more political on Twitter today than I have in a long time, because I've just forced myself not to, try to go down that road, because it's a losing battle. I heard somebody Oh, it was that Chris Prather today. I just heard a clip. He said, he's like, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be talking about how many Twitter arguments you won. That really struck a chord with me. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But I've learned that just don't, because you're never going to change their mind. They're not going to change your mind. And everybody's going to think you and that other person are assholes. And that's just really what it amounts to.
And at the end of the day, it's not like you're at a bar somewhere yelling and screaming at somebody, and then if it escalates enough that you're going to go to blows, right?
Yeah.
It's some jackass on the other side of some keyboard someplace that has zero accountability to what he has to say or she has to say, and the next thing you know, it's just
yeah. You become an asshole.
Yeah, you get other buddies bail in there with you, and they got their buddies that bail in there with you. Next thing you know, you've wasted a bunch of your life. So
basically, you've got likes to fight guy turns into a keyboard warrior. That's basically basically a likes to fight guy for people that are dudes that are 110 pounds.
Right. The likes to fight guy doesn't get on Twitter and run his mouth. It's the guy that gets people into fights. That's the guy who goes and runs his mouth.
That's
on Twitter.
But on
he's the guy sitting in the back that's running his mouth, and then his buddy's trying to all right, man, come on, forget my friend over here. He's just drunk. The next thing you know, it's falling.
Yeah, it goes nuclear, and the bench is clear, and the cops get called and all that good stuff. So it's wonderful. But yeah, I don't know. It's I understand. I mean, as bad as that looked today, I put on Twitter, I'm like, if the election was really rigged, and I mean, all the things point. I mean, everybody said there's been no evidence of
there's a lot of things that point that direction.
Malpractice or shady stuff. There are so many different stuff. I mean, the thing in Georgia with the surveillance videos of the Democrats going back in there and pulling suitcases out from underneath the tables and counting votes. I mean, do you believe me or your own lying eyes? I mean,
well, yeah, there's a lot of the statistical anomalies too. I mean, how do you get 500,000 votes or 400,000 votes or 300,000 votes all come in for one person?
And then there was a deal up in I think it was Michigan. It was like some local races, and there were more votes that came in than there were people in the county or the city or whatever it was.
Yeah,
there was 600 votes for 500 people, kind of thing.
Right. And the sad thing about today too was they're certifying the votes, and they're these senators and stuff are standing up, and House people are standing up, and some of them were saying, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and put my vote in that I feel like there's some shenanigans taking place over here, so we need to go further investigate these kind of things." You had places like Wisconsin, you had places like even Pennsylvania to some extent. But Wisconsin was actually going to a news report I read. They were actually going to decertify their vote or whatever the right terminology there is. But they were actually going to step back and say hey, we're not 100% for sure this is right, so we're going to go back and check this stuff. And Pennsylvania was doing some of the same stuff too, even with all the stuff that was going on there. So it's like they just could not take an objectifying. I mean, the one thing, the real cornerstone that we have here in the United States that we really can set our hat on and really say, what, for the past, however many 200 and however many odd years it's been that we've been a republic here, it's we've never had a coup of any kind, right? We've never had a takeover of any kind. No one's ever showed up one day and said, all right, I'm the new leader, and we're going to go out and kill everybody that's in place now, or run them out of the country, or exile them, or whatever it is. January 20th of after every November of an election year, the two guys get together. One guy says, "Hey man, here's the to-do list I had left to do when I was president. So if you want to finish it, great. If not, high five. I'll catch you on the flip flop." And that was just kind of went their own ways. And now, we've always had the old adage, vote early and vote often type of thing. That's always been a funny joke, and right. I'm sure some of that stuff has kind of happened. But if there are that many people, just from the sheer fact of just satisfying the public, right? Why not spend an extra couple of days and just, okay, cool, we're going to go back through it all again, make sure we're going to all verify it and show you all that it is what it is. And if it's not what it is, then oh crap, we need to fix it. But keeping people in mind that these things are just more important than anything else is, and that's making sure that people are going to buy into what's going on with voting, and that vote is legitimate, and everyone agrees, and there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they have this. When a big bulk, a third of the population, thinks that there was some shenanigans that took place, that's a problem. That's a big problem, and that's something that needs to be addressed. And I'm surprised that it's falling on such deaf ears. Whether it's Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. I mean, up until this election, the Democrats wanted to do away with the Electoral College, and now it's working in their favor. So now it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So now I just,
Well, the thing of it is, I got into a deal today about term limits and this and that, and it's like, you know what? I don't know why it's good for the president, but it's not good for congressmen and senators. It's like, because whoever, regardless of who's in the White House, who's in office in the White House, Pelosi and Schumer and McConnell and all of those guys, they don't care as long as they're in office, because they know they can be in office for as long as they want to, because people are sheep and people vote for the same person for years and years and years. And as long as they keep them on the plantation, they're going to keep their vote. I mean, there will literally be people that would almost rather shoot themselves than vote for the opposite party. I mean, people are almost that sick nowadays that they would do that and not vote for somebody just because, obviously I'm right. I'm on the right side. I'm a Republican, but, and there's Republicans too, but I mean, these people, especially on the left, that's their religion. Politics is their religion, and these politicians are their saviors. And that's why they're so rabid about this. They defend it almost like it's either that or they die. They try to do the live free or die thing, but that's not it. It's the politicians are their saviors. Their politics is their religion, and that's what they live by. And that's why their moral compass and all this and that, it points in the direction that suits them.
Right.
And
I don't know. Have you ever read the book? I don't know what it's called. I can't remember who wrote it, but I think it's called Tribe. But anyway, it talks about tribalism and what that is. I mean, if you take a look at, this two-party system thing that we've got going here, we're not voting for what's best for. I really believe this. We're not voting for what's best for the United States of America. We're voting on which party we want to maintain power.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you can say that the moral compass of the country is tied to those parties and this, that, and the other thing. But I will tell you this: I hate it when any one party has control of the House, the Senate, and
the White House.
The presidency.
Yeah.
I really hate that, because a conservative is never more conservative when they're in the minority.
Yeah.
They don't spend a goddamn penny, and by God, they're just, it's right as rain, and there's no gray in the world. It's black and white. And the same thing with Democrats. It seems like to me that they become more left when they're in the minority than when they are actually have all the power in the world. So I don't know. It feels like to me that if you're voting for Republican, you vote for Democrat. It is what it is. Up until Trump, I would really argue that you take a hard look at the presidents of the United States and tell me what the difference was between them. What's the real canyon in the middle of the prairie difference between
or in your case, a bluff.
Right. Yeah. What's the big differentiation between? You really step back and take a look at it.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of people that say the Democrats and Republicans are all the same. Well, they are in a sense, but as far as the presidents, Carter and Reagan, they're pretty different. Trump and Obama, they're pretty. Of course, Trump's a wild card to begin with.
Trump's different than any other president we've ever had.
Trump has more in common with Saturnites of the rings of Saturn than he does with any other politician. That's a good thing. But I mean, they all have one thing in common, and that's the power issue. And I would say probably a lot of them go into this thing into their first ever election with good intentions, but the actual, I mean, the whole deal of human nature, it just takes over them. When you get up there, Casey, and like I said, I was only up there for a summer, and you get around all that history and all those statues and all the grandeur, and you go in through the Capitol building and all these statues and columns and marble and fancy artwork, and you go to the monuments and everything, and all this. I mean, there's just an example and just a personification of power that absolutely gets into those people's brains, and I mean, it's just simple human nature to want to keep that, not let it go. And it's the American public; they're not any different. That everybody, for the most part, is in it for number one. I mean, everybody. I'm sorry, but the typical average American is a sinner. Every single one of them, and they're all in it for themselves. There's lots of great people that have good intentions for other people, but in the end, lots and lots of people are in it for themselves. They vote their interest, and the politicians know that, and they're going to get their interest fulfilled. And the circle just continues. And it started out, I mean, you read all the history books, and of course, George Washington and all those guys, they weren't perfect, just like anybody else. And I just got finished listening to the Killing Crazy Horse book, and I get, maybe it's just me, but I'd look at all these old pictures of all the presidents and how they looked, real stately and intelligent. For some reason, I remember Rutherford B. Hayes. He was in the timeline of the Indian Wars and everything. And he hated the Indians, man. But you look at his picture, and he looks like this stately, real proper, and moral character. And I mean, he was, as far as the Indians were concerned, they were, I don't know if they were subhuman to him, but they were certainly in the way. And people, we're going to title this episode "People Suck," and that's the episode.
Yeah.
And
I would agree with you. I mean, I think if you look at historically and look at the different presidents and the things that come into play, the one thing all these presidents and Congress people have in common is that a lot of them show up from very modest backgrounds. Very few are, Rockefellers, and very few are,
Vanderbilts and Kennedys,
kind of things. But most of them are just the average Joe that gets some political backing and ends up coming in, and they leave office after 20, 30, 40 years or whatever it is they're in there, and they're multimillionaires, right?
Right.
They have 20, 30, 40, 50 million, 100 million they're worth.
They get book deals and speaking fees, and which
to me baffles the shit out of me on a salary of whatever, $200,000 a year or whatever it is that they make. Unless they know how to really invest pretty well, it kind of shocks me a little bit how they get there. So I do believe every congressperson, every president, every member of Congress, whether they're a staffer or whatever they are, they show up there that they're going to make some difference in their community, right? They have some idea of grandeur that they're going to go there and do some crazy thing, and then all of a sudden they realize that in order to make my pet project happen, I got to sell my soul over here to make it work, and that's what I hate so much about the lobbyist thing, the special interest thing, the access they have to our politicians. It's just a sad thing that there has to be this much. I don't know, corruption is probably not the right word, but it's the only word I can think of. And manipulate what's going on out there.
And everyone, if you'll join us next week for Casey's next installment of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. What did he try to get, Mr. Smith? Didn't he try to get the Boy Scouts a lodge or some shit like that? What was it?
I don't remember. It's been so long.
Oh, Jimmy Stewart, or was that when he got his wings? No, that was a different Jimmy Stewart, maybe. We're gonna look that up because here we go. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. This was in 1939, and let's see. The governor of an unnamed western state, Hubert Happy Hopper, has to pick a replacement for the recently deceased senator. So he picks Jimmy Stewart, and let's see. Well. The judge is taken under the wing of the publicly esteemed but secretly crooked Senator Joseph Payne, who is Smith's late father's friend. He develops an immediate attraction to the senator's daughter, yada, yada, yada. Let's see. I thought he was trying to get like some funding for some kind of like local deal or whatever. But let's see. Although all hope seems lost. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Saunders, who looked down at Smith at first but has come to believe in him, talks him into launching a filibuster to postpone the appropriations bill and prove his innocence on the Senate floor just before the vote to expel him. In his last chance to prove his innocence, he talks nonstop for about 25 hours, reaffirming the American ideals of freedom and disclosing the damn schemes. What? This is Wikipedia. Damn schemes' true motives, yet none of the senators are convinced. The constituents try to rally around him, but the entrenched opposition is too powerful, and all attempts are crushed. Owing to the influence of his machine, newspapers and radio stations in his home state, on Taylor's orders, refuse to report what Smith has to say and even distort the facts. The Boy Rangers' effort to spread the news in support of Smith result in vicious attacks on the children by Taylor's minions. So, yeah, I need to back up here. So, to keep Smith busy, Payne suggests he propose a bill with the help of his secretary, who was the aide to Smith's predecessor and had been around Washington in politics for years. Smith comes up with a bill to authorize a federal government loan to buy some land in his home state for a national boys camp, which that sounds fishy in and of itself, to be paid back by youngsters across America. Donations pour in immediately. However, the proposed campsite is already part of a dam building graft scheme, included in an appropriations bill framed by the Taylor political machine. Okay, so there you go. It was a national boys camp, which you couldn't do that today. I almost called you Landon, Casey.
No, that's okay. That's all right.
Because
that would be fishy. Oh, show.
Well, it'd be fishy to begin with, and then you couldn't call it boys anymore. It would be
called them.
Them. Yeah. It would be for a national thems camp, is what it would be. So, kind of switching gears here, Casey. What do you think a 21st century Civil War would look like? And would it be, where would be the Mason-Dixon line?
That's a good question.
Because it would probably look like an Oreo, wouldn't it? Like the coasts and then the middle?
I think you'd have a...
and then the punch bowl would be Colorado.
Yeah, well, I really think if you were to take a line and draw it on the western...
I'd say just break it up by time zone.
Well, I think the Central Time Zone would all be
the Confederates.
We'll just do like red and blue, right? Okay. So
okay.
The Central Time Zone, it would be predominantly red, for sure. So you're talking the Central Time Zone would be, with the exception of one county in Kansas, and I think it's half of North and South Dakota, right?
Kansas City, Kansas.
And then you got the Panhandle, Nebraska, in the Mountain Time Zone. So I think if you were just my personal opinion, if you were to divide the United States up into just like say you're going to chop it up into, we're going to all this big succession talk, right? So everyone's going to succeed. I think North, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas,
Louisiana,
Oklahoma,
Arkansas.
Yeah. I think maybe to some extent Iowa, Illinois, maybe not Illinois, Iowa maybe.
Now
Missouri.
How blue is Omaha? Is Omaha blue?
Omaha is pretty blue. Yeah.
Pretty blue.
Nebraska's got a weird. I can't remember exactly how it works. There's
I'm gonna pull up the electoral map here.
There's like three electoral votes, I think.
Nobody really gives a shit about that.
And it's one of those. Well, there's more than that, but I can't remember exactly how it works. But there's different voting districts in each district.
Oh, that's right. Y'all aren't winner take all.
Yeah, there's like each district can apply its electoral vote. Just because there were like two red and one blue. I think
Uh-huh.
when you look at
So there's two.
Nebraska's.
Is this 2020? So this is
Yeah.
2020. There's 2 or 3 counties in Nebraska that are blue.
Yeah, pretty much east.
There's actually in South Dakota. There's about 5. Well, I don't know how big those counties are. The map's not very clear.
Yeah.
But we'll just look at this electoral map here. So there is a whole lot. I would say pretty much like you said. You would have to draw around, just say Texas and draw a line. I guess you'd have to include Montana. It's amazing how much Oregon is red, and
Right.
I mean,
it's just those key cities.
Just
That's
those
the thing
cities.
That's the thing that's so misrepresentative of
misrepresented.
those electoral maps. If you take a look at how much actual blue is in those in that area and what that looks like. I mean, obviously, there's population centers, and I understand that, and I get that, but it's like there's a red sea with just some like blue splotches in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I get the population center thing. I mean, there's more people in 4 square blocks in New York City than there are in the entire panhandle of Nebraska. Right? I totally get that, but
in one building.
but at the end of the day, it's like it's just one of those things. I get that, but I think there's the stuff that happened today with rushing, the number of people that showed up to do this kind of thing, right? The number of people that showed up. I mean, for all the Russian collusion and all the stuff, the Stormy Warren crap and everything else that was going on with Trump, all those different things. How many people showed up to go and protest in Washington, D.C. over that stuff?
Yeah.
And Bangladesh? Not very many people did, right? You had how many millions of people go to Washington, D.C. today to do what they do the protests that they've done. I just think that we're ushering in a time in American history now that as far as political revolution goes and political upheaval and shifts in the way people think about how they function in society and those kind of things, we're going to rival the 1960s. Like I believe that wholeheartedly because we are at a very big shift in this crossroads of our population of there's a big faction of people that think socialism and communism is so great, even though it's never worked anywhere. I mean, you can argue that Norway works great. Well, okay, awesome, right? They also have
they're not
a booming oil economy that supplies all the shit they got going on, right?
And they have
stuff like that.
And they're not a socialist country. They've got no minimum wage. They've got all these different things that liberals here would absolutely blow their minds would blow all over and look like an electoral map of the country because there are lots of policies over there that are anything but socialist. And the sad thing about it, and we're going to get back to the Civil War here in a second, but the sad thing about it is we're in that, I forgot what you call it, what kind of cycle they call it, but where it starts out as slavery, goes into freedom, and then it goes into, democracy. And then we're in a predicted cycle that was like, I don't know who coined it, hundreds of years ago, but we're in it. We're on that hamster wheel. And I mean, this is exactly where we're headed. But so back to the Civil War idea. Who do you think would have the advantage? What would advantages would the red team have?
Guns and lots of them.
Yeah, lots of guns, lots of army
fatigues. I don't know if they can use them and functionally actually use them, but holy crap! I mean, there's I can't remember the stat. I used to know it by heart, but I can't remember what it is anymore. But there's twice as many guns in the U.S. as there are people, or something like that. I can't remember what that is.
Let's see.
And I know a lot of people that don't have any guns, so that kind of tells you how many. The number of people that have multiple weapons.
Yeah, I've got multiple weapons.
Yeah.
Let's see. Facts on gun ownership and gun policy views. Here we go. This is Fact Tank. News and the numbers. So let's see. About 4 in 10 U.S. adults say they live in a gun-owning household, whereas 6 in 10 live in a gun-owning household but just don't know it. Let's see. I'm trying to find here. 42. What did I say? 40. This says 42% live in a household with a gun. Of course, New York. I mean, it's just next to impossible to have. Here, I'm going to say how many guns are in America. How many guns in America? Let's see. There are more guns than people in the United States. 400 million are in circulation for a population of 330 million.
What they know about.
Yeah, nothing. In just the first 6 months of 2020, approximately 19 million firearms had been sold, representing more than one firearm for every 20 Americans. That is awesome. So, yeah. So, obviously, guns, I would say pickups, all-terrain equipment would probably be a big one. All the red state, I mean, let's see. Other than the coastlines on the west and east, we own the Gulf of Mexico because we won Florida, and obviously Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana. We've got the ports. We've got that down there. So if we want to go to
oil.
Lots of oil. We got all the energy. We got all the wind towers. We got all the oil wells, all the coal, all the food. Right. Okay, so here's a good question. What do you think corn would go to if we were in a civil war?
Oh man, yeah.
Are we looking at $8 corn?
I think it'd be significantly higher than that because it would be all about the access to ports, correct? Right. So
yeah.
Whichever side had, if Virginia, all right, so you're going to jump on the opposite side of that. Now they've got several naval ports and stuff like that. They can run, ships and do blockades of the Gulf of Mexico, so we can't ship corn in and out and those kind of things. And that means we'd have to cut deals with the cartels so we could truck stuff down from the United States to Mexico. So I mean, it would be. I'd have to believe that the price of corn, with the amount of corn the United States produces, as a percentage of the world supply of corn, would be we could see corn in the teens.
I like that, corn in the teens. So you think this would finally get all the farmers in the Midwest to co-op together and regulate and limit the number of acres grown just so we could get to those corn in the teens?
No.
Still no. You think they would break out more CRP land?
Oh, they'd go back to got ripped this ground up.
Corn's gonna be in the teens. We'll plow that shit in till it's back to $4 right now.
I don't think that would play a lot into their decision.
So, and we have all of NASA because we've got Florida and we've got Houston, so we got that covered. So the red team's okay.
We do control all the nuclear missiles because of all if you look at North and South Dakota, and
that's where all the silos are.
Oh God, they're everywhere. So yeah, it's good thing about a nuclear war. If it were to happen here, I wouldn't have to worry about it too much because it'd be a nice piece of glass by the time we were done.
So what is it? Is it Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska? Isn't that's where Bush flew to during 9/11? Offutt, OFFUET or something like that.
Is that in? Because there's one right outside of Omaha, and then
let's see.
Another one in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City is white. Whitaker.
Offutt Air Force Base, OFFUTT, south of Omaha, adjacent to Bellevue in Sarpy County, Nebraska.
Yeah. So there's another one in Oklahoma. It's called White Baker or Whitaker.
Oh, what's that one?
But anyway, that's where the B-2 bomber is.
Now the bombers are in Missouri.
Is that what that was?
The stealths are in Missouri.
Okay. That was a big thing with it. They took off and flew around the world and dropped one bomb.
They only land and take off there.
Okay.
So crazy.
Flew around the world.
Well, they
drop
have
the
to
bomb.
refuel, obviously, but yeah,
Right.
there's one mission only takes off and lands from Missouri. But I actually have a old friend, a girl that was in class with me, and her husband is an actual pilot of a stealth bomber. Like he's a colonel in the Air Force, and or maybe a lieutenant colonel, and he legit flies those things. Like she's had a video of it, which I figured was probably classified, but but she's on her Facebook page. She's got a video of him flying over their heads as they took off, and I mean it's a legit freaking stealth bomber. But yeah, let me see. That is in stealth bomber base.
No, it's by Lake Truman Reservoir.
It
No,
is
shit,
Whiteman Air Force
Whiteman Air
Base.
Force
Yeah.
Base.
So, I think that's right. Yeah. So, anyway, but yeah. Here's how B-2 bomber pilots pull off grueling 33-hour flights. Probably in a diaper, I would think so. But, so yeah, we've got those bases. So, okay, so now we got to give, now the blue team, they would have, obviously, the population. They would have the people. They would have the good clothes. And I think they would also have probably good music. Well, I don't know. Depends on your flavor of music. They would have all the pop stars, and they would have all the good movies. I would have to give them that because that's all in California. So that would be to their advantage. So when they're sitting in the trenches, they've got, all the iPhones they can watch Netflix on.
Right. So you remember in Die Hard, in the guy that was like the slick salesman, remember him?
Hans, Booby, I'm your white
Booby.
knight.
I can give it to you on a silver platter. That's the blue team. Okay, that's what they're made up of.
I forgot what that guy's name was, but yeah,
I forget what his name was too.
Hans, Booby, I'm your white knight. Give him the detonators, John. He's got a gun at my face. Oh, he's gonna wax you, dude. Oh, freaking Hans, man.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched that this season, Christmas season.
I always tell my wife it's the best Christmas thing to watch.
And I only caught part of a Christmas Vacation. Now we did watch Christmas Story at least once,
Oh, yeah.
I know, but
Yeah, I did 24 hours of Christmas just to get the loop in, and I tried to watch a whole episode at least once.
yeah,
Not in like
pieces, but all together.
Not a linear format, but like
Okay.
chunks of pieces. I'm jumping back into it.
Yeah. This is where he gets his tongue stuck, and this is where he beats the shit out of that step kid. And you think he was a stepchild because he was redheaded? That would have been so awesome.
What's Scott Farkas, the guy's name?
Do step kids get braces?
Possible. I mean, it could. I mean, it just depends on.
I'm gonna have to ask any step kid friends of mine if they have got braces.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, some redheaded
really
latchkey kid, yeah.
Yeah, I really think the blue team would have. I mean,
They got Pearl.
Just by resources, I think they'd struggle.
They'd struggle, yeah. Because in the old Civil War, what did we always learn? The South had who had the railroads? The North had the railroads, and the South had the good generals. That's what I always remember learning about the Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, and the biggest issue that everybody had railroads. The difference was some were narrow gauge and some were wide gauge, I guess, whatever. So they couldn't actually take the trains through.
And the adapters were hard to come by. Yeah. But so they've got good music, they got good clothes, they got the population advantage. Because let's see, how many people live on the coast? Probably each coast, there's probably 90 million on each coast, or hell, probably 100 million, I bet. Because there's 300 something.
I think statistics are 80% of any population lives within 100 miles of the coast.
Oh, okay.
So if you do that,
so probably 150
Maine
million.
Through down across,
Mm-hmm.
from Maine all the way down across the Gulf of Mexico up to Washington.
Yeah. Because what New York City alone's got 12 million, and then LA's got 7 or 8 million, and Houston. I mean, really the only major one's Chicago,
million.
Huh?
Like 30 million.
Who?
New York City.
Oh.
LA.
Well, together, yeah.
No, a piece.
Oh, a piece. Well,
Like,
whatever the case, it's a lot of it's a lot of idiots. So yeah.
It's a lot of folks. Yeah.
But the Civil War is going to be lit AF, as that one dude's. I don't know who's that Twitter guy is, but it's pretty on the money. But so the good thing we got to look forward to is $8 corn. Of course, Bitcoin would probably be like $100,000 in a Bitcoin.
I can see that the blue folks would take Bitcoin as their national currency.
Yeah, I find it interesting. It's like, like of course Glenn Beck's big on the gold thing, and always talking about how when the dollar fails, that it's all going to be gold or it's going to be Bitcoin. I find it interesting that both gold and Bitcoin are quoted in dollars.
Exactly. Yeah. Just like everything else in the world is. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just find that
if
interesting.
the dollar fails, we have bigger problems than gold and Bitcoin.
Yeah. Again, you can't wipe your ass with gold, but you can with like beaver skins or whatever.
Right.
Those are more valuable.
I'm pretty sure if you went back in time and you went back to the what's the name of that? After Germany, the Weimar Republic.
The Weimar Republic
Said, "Hey, tell you what, I'll give you me $100 million of whatever it is,
100 million marks,
darks or whatever they call them,
darks,
Deutschmarks, whatever it is.
Yeah, Deutschmarks.
You give me 100 million Deutschmarks, or I'll give you these 3 cans of green beans. I'm pretty sure you could do a lot of 3 cans of green beans.
Yeah,
I feel like you could make a lot of things happen.
You could even
or
try
5 gallons of gas. I feel like you could make a lot of things happen with it.
I wonder how long it took the comedians back in the Weimar Republic to call them, instead of Deutschmarks. You think that's where douchebag came from? That was a political cartoon, Casey.
Yeah, it could have been exactly that.
Yeah. But so in a long story short, everything's going great in 2021. So
we're starting off with a bang, for sure.
For sure.
I don't know. I think there's a big amount of political unrest coming our way. The economy is not overly strong by all accounts. If you look at what the dollar's been doing, and the reason that the stock market is jumping like it's been doing, it's where else you gonna put the money, right? So it's one of those things that it'll be. I think 21 is not going to be a 2020 by any stretch of anyone's imagination, but I'm convinced that there's going to be a fair amount of obstacles and setbacks that we see along the way, and this drought situation that we're seeing in the Midwest, the drought situation we're seeing in Brazil, and the different stuff that's coming down the pike. I think there's a bigger picture coming at us that we need to pay more attention to than what we have.
Okay. Yeah. I think the big thing about, like, especially with the Georgia thing that went down last night, is that, they've got this control of everything now, and they're going to make things permanent or unattainable for the right, to get back into, I hate to say it, but back into power. And I think that was what's fueling a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I think if you take a look at it, I think it's like any other faction of a political party. You have multiple factions that kind of make up everything. Like the conservative wing of politics, and you've got the Tea Party kind of went away, but I think now it's going to come back, and we're going to see this like ultra conservative kind of mindset start to kind of come back into play. I'm not really overly concerned about what happens with the Democrats having control of the House and Senate, because you have an extreme, their version of what the Tea Party would be here, like the ultra left that want to take everything and turn
brown
it
shirts
on its head and just do away with. Tomorrow we're going to stop oil production. Okay, great. Well, what are we going to do for energy? Well, we're going to, they don't have an answer.
Fairy dust.
Yeah, exactly right. So, they're going to have those struggles that they're going to have to deal with. And you're going to have people like, they want to maintain power, right? So there has to be some centrist view that comes into play. And sooner or later, that mindset and those different political aspirations are going to come to fruition. And you're going to see, this midterm election thing, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
If the midterm elections come around, and that's my biggest joke has always been that in March, we're not going to hear much about the coronavirus anymore because people got to get reelected, right?
Yeah.
They got to open things back up. People got to start making that 2-year run of we're 18 months away from midterm elections at that point. They got to start making some changes in what they're doing. And they quote unquote ousted what they wanted out of the office. And now we're going to try to work on maintaining this thing. How do we grow our power in the House, the Senate, and what's that look like? And I don't think they're going to pack the courts. I don't think they're going to do anything like that because I don't know that American people would stand for it. I don't know that there's enough people that'd be like, I agree that we should have, 13 judges instead of 9. I think those are all things that just are gonna play into those things. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is that, yeah, one party now has control of everything, but if you historically go back and look at when one party's had control of everything, really not much more gets done when they have control of everything than when one has the House, one has the Senate, and the presidency. It's just not much. It's just now everybody acts like we got a blank check. We can do whatever we want.
On that, as far as having power in both houses, that's why the 60 vote threshold in the Senate is such a big deal.
Right.
That's where that really comes into play when both parties have houses. It's 50-50 in the Senate. And the margin, there's only they have a majority of 12 members in the House or something like that. I know it's less than 20.
Yeah, it's 12.
The difference, it's razor thin, but they're so polarized, but it's, I don't know. But
they've called both elections for the challengers, right?
For Georgia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a done deal. They'll probably have to do an automatic recount because they were so close, but
right.
They're probably pretty much set in stone for the most part. But well, guys, I'm going to run out of memory here if we go much longer, so we're going to promote Casey's podcast and tell us about it, where you can find it.
You can find the Moving Iron Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or at Moving Iron LLC on all those platforms. Also, check out my website, movingironllc.com. You can get all the latest information about what's going on with my website or my podcast on that website. So check it out, man. If you're into the equipment business or own a piece of farm equipment, it's a great place to get to see what trends are happening, what's the best for your operation, or if you're buying and selling, what you should be paying attention to.
And you can also find the Dryline Farmer Podcast all the same places the Moving Iron Podcast is, except we're the ranking right above the Moving Iron Podcast. In the business, let's see, is in the international or the business category in Argentina, we are numbers 199 and 200. So look for us in the Argentina Hot Top 200 podcast in the business section.
Yeah, we are trending in Turkmenistan as well.
We're big with the Turks, and we're going to have on Borat next week. So actually, he's from Kazakhstan, but nonetheless, we're all over iTunes. That's at Trader Brent, and I think Landon had some kind of ballet recital that he was in. He looked really cute, but nonetheless, he was out this week. So, guys, we're going to get out of here. I promised I'd never talk politics, but hey, when you've got some people breaking into the Capitol building, that's pretty newsworthy. So, guys, until next time, y'all stay safe, and hopefully we're going to have some more regular episodes and some new content and all kinds of great stuff. And until next time, guys, we'll ask you, what side of the line are you on?
The Dryline Farmer Podcast, a member of the Global Ag Network. There's podcasts, and then there's this, the Dryline Farmer Podcast.